when I left the library world, it's a nonprofit in Wallingford, to do this work, I worried, would this work feel noble to me? Because it's really important to me. This is my third act career, and it's really important for me to be doing good work for people, and it does feel noble. The way we're able to connect with clients and families and help them when they might not know where else to turn, or they just want to be sure it goes right, that we can connect and provide that service. That kind of allayed my fears about, is this going to feel like a sales job?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sounds of Health, where we shine a light on the stories, people, and resources that help our listeners to improve their physical, emotional, and financial well-being. Thank you to everyone out there who has been listening and sharing our sounds. If you're joining us for the first time today, be sure to give our previous episodes a listen and share them with everyone you know. I'm your host, Dave MacNiven, and today I'm excited to welcome Certified Senior Advisor and owner of Oasis Senior Advisors of South Central and Southeastern Connecticut, Jane Fisher. Jane, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here today. Would love to learn more about you and your business and tell everybody out there about what you guys offer. So you and I, we've met each other pretty recently within the last year, correct?
Right.
And I think, again, we've had a couple of people on the podcast already who kind of came into my world through the Chamber of Commerce, which is exactly the way you did it as well.
Correct.
So you're a member of the Hamden Regional Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah,
right?
and very happy to be a member of that chamber. It's been super helpful for us.
That's great. Yeah, we've talked about it with a few people already, but it's just such a wonderfully run organization. They're so active in the community. And I know you and I are also sitting on the Health and Wellness Committee as well, which gets us involved in lots of different events.
Right. And I love that because it's an opportunity to really give to the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much need out there, but there's so much that we can do. I love, the events that we run for the seniors at the senior center. And those are always so much fun to get out there and really give back to the community.
We're lucky to have such a great senior center in Hamden.
Yeah, for sure. So that's great. And it's been fun getting to know you a little, but I feel like I don't know a lot about you. So I would love to learn a little bit more. Are you from the area originally?
So I grew up in Wallingford, lived there until high school. Then my family moved to Cheshire, lived in Cheshire through my college years. And then I actually lived in the Midwest for graduate school, and then for a long time in New York City and northern New Jersey.
Oh, wow. So you've been all over.
I've been around a little bit. I came back to Connecticut in 2013, back to my hometown. Never really thought of myself as the going home type. Back to my hometown
you and me
of Wallingford,
both. Yeah.
where I became the director of the Wallingford Public Library. And I did that for 10 years.
That's great. I love that. I'm a big reader. I love to read. It's probably one of my favorite pastimes. And so libraries and bookstores are my happy place.
Yeah, it's good to hear.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate to have great libraries in Connecticut.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you spent some time in New York. What were you doing there?
I did. So I went to school to get a master's in library and information studies in Madison, Wisconsin, and I went straight from graduation to work at the New York Public Library.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I worked in a number of neighborhoods, starting in Washington Heights and also in the Upper West Side, in West Harlem, and then I had a system-wide job, so I was in Midtown in the building right across the street from the big one with the lions.
Oh, I love it. That's one of my favorite places. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely special. Amazing.
Yeah.
And what did your work entail when you were doing that?
So I started out in branch libraries, helping the public to find what they needed in the way of information, resources, books. It was at the stage when the internet was just arriving in public libraries, so I was at the forefront of helping people learn how to use the internet.
That's awesome.
Very exciting.
I bet. Yeah. I mean, that changed so much, I'm sure.
So much. And then I progressed in my career there through a couple of branch positions into a system-wide position where I was doing training of the reference librarians, writing grants, trying to bring in money for some more advanced training for staff to understand how to teach people how to use the internet, make sure they had the resources that they needed when the internet wasn't the best way to go.
Sure. I mean, that sounds like a very broad and big job.
It was really terrific.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. So then how did you make your way back to Connecticut? What brought you back?
Well, before I went to Connecticut, I did a stint in New Jersey as a public library director in New Jersey. I was living at the time in northern Manhattan, and I realized I was trying to make a suburban life for myself in New York City. I got a car, which was a challenge. Right. I got a dog, which was a challenge. And I said, maybe it's time for me to move to the suburbs. So I went to New Jersey for a few years where I was a library director. And then I saw this job at the Wallingford Public Library, which is a very large, very well-supported, creative library.
Yes.
My parents were getting a little bit up there, and I wanted to spend more time with them. So I applied, and I got the job.
That's really amazing. Yeah. So the lure of family, but also the career itself. So it brought you back home.
Yep.
Exactly. That's great. I have a similar story as well. We moved back to Connecticut when we started having kids. We wanted to be around family, but we were living in New York for a few years, my wife and I. And she always tells me that I took her out too soon. And if she had it her way, that's where we would retire to, although I don't think that's going to be something that's possible at all. But yeah, so that's really great. So when you took the job in Wallingford, how long did you do that for?
I was there for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
10 and a half years. And it's a wonderful job.
Yeah.
People ask me, why did you leave? It's such a great job. And it is. It was a very special place to live and a hard decision to leave.
I'm sure. I'm sure. That's a good thing, though, right?
Absolutely.
So how did you find your current path?
So while I was in Wallingford, toward the end of my time there, started to feel like I wanted one more career before I retire. Mm-hmm. And I got the sense that if I didn't do it now, I would lose my nerve and just kind of coast into retirement, which I don't think is the right thing for me or for the library job that I had.
Yeah.
Before I became a librarian, I had a career as a nursing home administrator and a retirement community administrator in Connecticut and in New York State.
Oh, okay.
So I have some background in the field of working with older adults, senior housing options, and I love that population, have always been more comfortable around older people than tiny kids. Sometimes people are drawn one way or the other.
Yeah, of course.
And I was interested in going back to that type of work and not sure what direction to go in. And then I had heard about this idea of organizations like ours that help older adults make a transition into senior living options.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And then from there, started looking into the possibility of what company does that the best. And that's how we found Oasis Senior Advisors.
Okay, great. And so how long have you been involved with Oasis?
So we started to look into it, not this past January, the January before. We did our due diligence in making the decision that Oasis was the right company for us. And we opened in July.
Oh, wow. Okay. So still pretty new.
Still pretty new.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're making that transition from your old life into this new life.
Right.
And so is Oasis a franchise model?
It is.
It is. Okay.
It is, yeah. And we were particularly interested in doing this as a franchise because the support is so excellent. You can really hit the ground running by opening a franchise business in this particular field.
Sure. All right. How many of them are there in Connecticut?
There is one other one in Connecticut. So we have neighbors that have their business in Fairfield and Westchester counties.
Okay.
They've been great neighbors to us. One of the advantages of having another office right here in Connecticut is there's already some brand awareness happening.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And so you are involved in the company. So you're an owner of the franchise, correct?
Yeah.
And you do this with your husband, right?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about what it's like working with a spouse.
So it's been really sweet for us to get to work together. So my husband, Kevin, owns another franchise business where he has a very strong general manager who runs the day-to-day. So he has time to work with me at Oasis, but he also knows his way around operating a franchise business. How to evaluate a franchise agreement, how to get involved in the bigger franchise, get to know the other franchisees, because there's so much value in being able to work with others and benefit from their knowledge.
And there's probably a skill set you don't have unless you have had that experience.
Right. So we really make a strong team in that sense. And it's also nice for us because when I worked at the library, I worked a lot of evenings, lots of events. And I'm still doing that, but now Kevin and I can do that together.
Yeah, that's nice.
And it's really fun for us.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you guys, you can be together in work and personal life. So,
exactly. And then when it gets hectic and we need to divide and conquer, we're both, we have tours going on at the same day, same time, we can go our separate ways and work with clients.
Gotcha. Now, did he have a background in this field at all, or is this brand new to him?
This is new to him. What he has, and myself as well, is some experience working with families who've gone through this kind of transition.
Okay.
And in some ways, that's almost as important as having a professional background, because to know what it's like from the client's point of view, to try to help a parent make a transition into senior living is really critical.
It really is, yeah. It's important. And again, another thing where unless you've experienced it, you might not know all of the intricacies.
Exactly. Yeah. And families sometimes struggle with just where to start.
Right. So tell me a little bit about Oasis. Are they national?
They're national, over 130 offices.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's been particularly helpful for us because we have clients who are looking to move to Connecticut from other parts of the country or looking to move to other parts of the country. And so because our network is so strong, we can work together. So one of our first clients actually moved here from Florida.
Oh, wow.
And moved here to get closer to his kids.
Okay.
So we were able to work with the Oasis office in Florida to gather the information as well as from the family and be involved in that process of making the transition for him back to Connecticut.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you have those resources all over the country.
Exactly.
Okay. And when you first get started, is there a built-in business to it? Are there clients there ready and waiting, or is this something you're really building from the ground up?
So there are not clients ready and waiting, although we were fortunate to actually get our first referral for a client on our way home from training, which was terrific.
That's great, yeah.
But there are a number of lead sources already developed, people who know about the business because of the other office in Connecticut.
Right, yeah.
There are a number of communities, so we have referral agreements with assisted living, memory care, independent living communities in our territory. Mm-hmm. And so those communities, some of them already had agreements with Oasis, some of them knew about us and were eager to welcome us. So in some ways, the territory was pretty fertile for us to get started quickly.
That's great. It seems like there's a lot of companies out there that are doing, the in-home services, the placement into senior living. What exactly are the services that you're offering?
So what we specialize in is helping older adults find their best next place to live, particularly assisted living, memory care, and independent living retirement communities. We help them identify the ones that are the best fit for them. So we're very personalized in our approach. We take the time to do a very thorough intake to learn about our clients, any care needs they might have, what amenities they feel are really critical to them. Some people feel like, they're really foodies and they want to go to a place with outstanding food, or they want to go to a place that has a bridge club because that's been a lifelong passion. Some people have told us, I don't want to be the only Jewish resident where I go. I don't want to be the only gay person where I go. So we really try to suggest places that are a good fit, not only for medical and healthcare needs, but for amenities and social needs. We also think about geography. So what makes the most sense? Do they want to stay where they're at now in the same radius towns they're at now? Or do they want perhaps to live closer to a child who lives, a half an hour or an hour away?
Right.
So that's really key. And then the other piece that's really important is to learn about their budgets. So we don't want people to get excited about a place that's beyond their means, or the opposite, to not consider something that's the best fit because they don't think they have the budget. But when we actually show them what the costs are to maintain a home, the costs for in-home caregivers if they need that, utilities, etc., they might find that retirement community living is well within their means. So we take all of those factors into consideration. And then we suggest some for them to come and look at. And what we do that I think is really nice is that we accompany our clients on tours. We don't just give them a list and say, go out and look. We fine-tune a small list to start with. We can always add more. And then we take them on tours. And that helps to be sure that they get all their questions answered, that the staff at the communities who are giving the tours know exactly what our clients want.
So you're helping to kind of facilitate that knowledge transfer because maybe they don't know what to ask, but you do.
We know because we've interviewed them and we know what their needs and wants are. We make sure they really get to the heart of those questions when they're doing a tour. The other thing that I think differentiates us is that we are HIPAA compliant and we protect our clients' privacies. So we do not give all of the communities that our clients are touring all of their contact information. If the client agrees to, then we would be happy to do that. But this way, they're not being marketed at by 3 or 4 communities while they're considering what their options are.
Gotcha. So you're protecting them from all of that outreach and being inundated by information.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha. So you're tailoring that experience for them.
It's very personalized. Some people have said it's like a concierge approach, which I think it is. And then we have another company that we work with that is also concierge-like in its approach, which helps our clients determine if they might be eligible for VA benefits for assisted living, which is a benefit lots of people don't know exists.
Yeah, absolutely.
What if they might need a bridge loan because they need to sell a home to pay for their care or their new retirement community, we can hook them up with resources to do that. So that's been really helpful, I think, for our clients. We try to wrap around all the services that go into such a big transition. So we work with move managers, we work with financial planners, we can give referrals for financial planners, for people who need to have somebody look over their long-term care benefit to see if the coverage would apply. So we can really make this transition easier for clients by the fact that not only do we refer them to communities, but we help provide all those services that go into it. It's a very big transition.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a huge decision. It's something that people many times are fighting against. That's the service. It's specific to identifying a retirement community for somebody to transition into, correct?
So that's what we do best.
Okay.
We're happy to take calls from people who might not need everything that we offer, but might need referrals to move managers or some of the other. We have a very robust Rolodex. And so doing that kind of referral is something that we do very carefully and thoughtfully for people. Okay.
And the retirement communities themselves, is it assisted living? Is it independent living? Do you help people with those 55 and over communities? Like, what are the targets that you have?
So the assisted living, the memory care, the independent living, retirement communities are the ones that we work most closely with. So we have agreements with them. What I should mention is that our clients never pay for our service.
Okay, so you're free of charge for your clients.
It's free for our clients.
Okay.
The only way that we get paid is if a client has a successful move-in at a community we work with. So we work with almost all of the independent living, the assisted living, and the memory care communities. The condo complexes, the over 55 housing complexes, and if that is what a client calls and is interested in, we would link them up to a realtor who specializes in that.
Gotcha. Okay, so that wouldn't be a part of your services, but you'd make that connection.
We'd make the connection, as well as if the people needed connections to move managers or any other of the professions that could help them.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, when do people typically reach out to you? Like, when are they finding you in the process?
So it is across the board, which is really nice for us. So we have some folks who are planning ahead. They want to know what the options are. How does it work? What are the costs? So they're really thinking about their future, and they might be a year or two away from making a move. We have other people who are in the hospital. Medicare is going to run out in 3 days. It's not safe for them to go home,
right?
And they'd like to find out about assisted living options. And we can work very quickly with those clients because of the relationships we have with the communities, who are fantastic about doing the assessment where the client is to determine if they're the appropriate place. We want to be sure that people are going to a community that can offer the right level of care.
Yeah.
We have very strong assisted living and memory care communities in our area. So we can help them with a very quick discharge from a hospital or a skilled nursing facility into a community. So it's across the board, the range. And we work in New Haven County, Middlesex County, and New London County. So we have a lot of options to choose from.
That's great. And then you can hand off to the other franchise, right? If there's people that reach you outside of that area.
In Fairfield, we would refer to our neighbors there, and our clients wouldn't even necessarily need to know. We wouldn't say, call Fairfield. We would make that happen for them.
Okay.
We don't have an Oasis office in Hartford County right now. I do get some clients calling from that area, and happy to work with them too.
Okay, great. So someone shouldn't question whether or not they should call. They should
just call.
Just call.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And so where do you see the biggest need in this population? Like, are you starting to see people get ahead of that planning, or is it really, kind of leaning in towards people just making that decision when that need comes up?
What I think we're seeing more of is adult children who have aging parents thinking about what's going to happen next for their parents and reaching out to us to talk about that. It's ideal when the parent is actively involved in the decision making, but sometimes it takes a little prodding from an adult child to start that conversation. It's really great when families can make a transition into assisted living while their parents or themselves can enjoy. It's a really nice lifestyle.
Yeah,
assisted living is a wonderful lifestyle, and people think of it as something that is going to be a downer when in fact it can be, add so much to their quality of life.
Right.
So we're seeing more of family getting involved in making the decision. And I love when that happens. It doesn't always go that way. Sometimes, mom or dad is just hit bottom and needs some help fast.
Of course, yeah.
And that sometimes happens too.
Right. Gotcha. So having the family involved always is a helpful thing.
It's helpful.
Okay. And I can imagine that planning process, if you're getting ahead of it, is really helpful and important because the budget is such a big part of this, right?
Yeah. And we tell people, just call us. We can also just talk them through what is assisted living. Some people don't know what it is. Hasn't been around all that long. So we can explain to them how it works, whether their insurance might cover it. Largely, these are private pay communities. Medicare typically doesn't cover.
Right. Yeah.
So helping people understand it, looking at assets they might have if they have a home to sell to support their stay in assisted living, their care, et cetera.
That's great. So it's a very holistic approach, it sounds like.
Yep.
Great. So what are the things that you need help with getting the word out there? Are there certain things that you're finding to be a challenge in this new endeavor that you have?
So I think that when people hear Oasis Senior Advisors, they're not sure what that means.
Yeah.
Then it doesn't. And our tagline is because the right place matters, and that helps shine a little bit more light on it. So we're really interested in people getting to know who we are, that we're personalized. There are some other companies that just make referrals and don't have all of the level of service that we have in terms of the conversation and the tours. And so we want to be sure people understand how we work and how personalized we are, and that our service is free for our clients.
That's great. And is it just you and your husband now in the business?
Yes, right now it's Kevin and myself. We're getting busy enough that we think that down the road that there'll be opportunities for us to employ other senior living advisors to work with us.
That's great.
Clients always come first. So if we have a client that needs help right away, we drop everything else so that clients can always come first.
That's fantastic. That's got to be exciting, having that opportunity to bring somebody else on board and to reach more people.
Yeah, I think it will be helpful as the business grows.
Yeah. Now, how has your prior life really fed into what you're doing now? Has anything transferred from your work in the libraries and into what you're doing now with seniors?
I love that question. So much has. Not so much that I had a leadership role in libraries, but the whole nature of reference work in libraries, which was my specialty, is about making good referrals and giving good information and listening. Listening is so key in this business. Same with librarianship. It's really important to listen when people approach that reference desk at the library. What are they asking? What are they really asking? Because it isn't always the first question that people ask that is what they really want. And so learning to listen, learning to ask good follow-up questions, I think is critical in both jobs, and something that I think we all can be better listeners. In fact, I agree. I read some books about listening, the art of listening, and try to practice it. And I think that kind of work is similar in librarianship and senior living advising.
Yeah, so definitely being a good listener, being able to take in information and really be engaged in a conversation, not just being someone who's thinking about what you're going to say next, right?
Yeah, and that's what so often happens in people who think they're listening. They're planning their response, and they're missing what's being said or the nuance or the body language of the person who's speaking.
Yeah, and then also I'm sure empathy plays a big role in what you do.
Empathy is huge, and building relationships. Even when we started talking with Oasis about becoming future franchise owners, Oasis wanted to be sure that we are people who know how to build relationships, because we need to build relationships with clients, with their families, with these assisted living communities we're working with. We want them to feel really confident that we are bringing them qualified prospective residents.
Of course.
People like you and other professionals who work in this field. It's critical for us to have good relationships with them. That's what it's all about. Right.
It's, the business that I have too, there's a way that a person can do it where it's just transactional. You can make a sale, you can put somebody onto an insurance policy, and you can get paid for it. And it's, transaction, shake your hand, and that's it. But I think the people that are the most successful realize that it's a long-term relationship. You want to be involved in that person's life, making sure that they know what they signed up for, making sure that they have the support they need so that it's working properly, and also connecting them to others. I think joining the Chamber of Commerce is something where you get involved in your community. You start to see all of the different unique businesses that are out there, the opportunities, and it gets to be a lot of fun to learn about people like yourself, or, in a completely different category or industry, what they're doing, what their challenges are, who they're trying to meet and what they're trying to do. And so it becomes a much more long-term relationship.
Yep, I totally agree. And the other thing that's been fun is we do have some competition in this field.
Right.
But I think we all come at it from a mindset of abundance, not scarcity. So there are plenty of older adults who need the kind of help that we're offering. And so it isn't cutthroat. It's really about having collaborative relationships, even with our competitors. And so the Chamber has been great to help us to connect to a variety of professionals, even people who we think, we probably won't have a connection there. It's great to learn about a variety of businesses and what people are doing.
Yeah, and those people that you would probably view as competitors, like you're saying, it's good to connect with them, right?
Absolutely.
You learn about what's happening in the industry. And, I'm a big believer in a rising tide raises all ships.
Yep.
There's enough business out there for all of us, especially in the fields that we're in, where we're out there trying to help people. The need is great.
Yeah.
There's no end to the people that need our services.
Yeah, and when we can say to our clients and their families, our service is free for you,
right?
That goes a long way too.
It does, yeah. I worked in nonprofit before I became an insurance guy, and I never thought about insurance as a career. It wasn't something I would even consider. But I got into it through Medicare, and with Medicare, it's the same way. You get paid by the insurance company, so your services for your clients are free of charge. And so while people call it a sales career, it's really more of an advisory capacity. You have all the things that these people are being contacted about and inundated about, and you're able to really work for them, but then get paid by the insurance company. So it's a really unique kind of career and something that allows you to do what's right for the client.
Yeah. And I bet you might be similar to me. When I left the library world, it's a nonprofit in Wallingford, to do this work, I worried, would this work feel noble to me? Because it's really important to me. This is my third act career.
Yeah.
And it's really important for me to be doing good work for people. And it does feel noble. The way we're able to connect with clients and families and help them when they might not know where else to turn, or they just want to be sure it goes right, that we can connect and provide that service. That kind of allayed my fears about, is this going to feel like a sales job?
Yeah. I totally relate to that because that was something that was important to me as well. You wanted to do something that you felt good about, that, was fulfilling. It wasn't just, lucrative. Right. It was fulfilling in other ways as well.
Yeah.
So that's great. Are you someone who was guided by any sort of set of core values? Like, is that something you've ever really thought about with your background as a librarian, I would assume that there's a lot of structure, right, to that work. But has there ever been a thought of your personal core values really guiding your path?
So I think in this business, and I've said this already, but that clients come first.
Yeah.
So being sure that our clients, that their needs come first, that they are getting good quality of information from us, that we are not guiding them to some place that's not the right match is really important to us. I think in terms of what's carried over from my librarianship background, the right to access of quality of information, the right to privacy is something that I really value. I would call that a core value for me.
Yeah, and that's something that is constantly in contention, right, these days. Our privacy seems to be getting less and less between technology and marketing and all of those things.
Right.
It gets harder to have that.
Yeah, it does. So whatever we can do to help make that a priority is what we'll do.
That's great. Now, how has it been as far as you finding balance in your life? So I know you have a family, and how do you do all of the things that you do?
I'm not doing it very well right now.
Well, you're a new business, right? So that makes sense.
Yeah. We're working some long days.
Yeah, I'm sure.
For sure. So Kevin and I met through the Wallingford Rotary Club, and we have been married for almost 5 years. So we have still a new and happy marriage. Not to say that long-term marriages aren't happy, but
right, yeah.
We really love to spend time together. Look forward to being together at the end of each day. He's a terrific cook, which is really nice.
That helps.
It's really great. Yeah. We did something that might not have been the smartest decision, but around the same time we opened the business, we got a puppy. We lost an older dog, and we were very sad and decided, let's adopt another dog. Let's get a mellow older dog. And somehow we came home with a puppy. So he is a lot of work, but he also keeps us grounded to being outside, to maintaining some kind of a routine, to going to bed. We tend to go to bed pretty early, and just being together at home. So that helps us, I think, maintain some balance.
And what breed?
He's a Jack Russell Lab mix.
Okay.
High energy.
High energy. Yeah.
Very cute.
We just got
Very
a puppy
naughty.
Recently too.
What kind?
He's a Beagle mix.
Oh.
But when I had a Beagle growing up, and I warned my wife about them wanting a Beagle. I have 2 boys, and so she found the Beagle mix, and I said, "Listen, they howl. They're much different than our current dog. We have an older black lab who's probably the quietest dog you'll ever meet. Super sweet, just a really great dog." And I said, the Beagle's is going to be a terror for a while. And we wanted to give our boys that puppy experience. I don't know why. I think that might have been a mistake. But when we got the lab, he was a little bit older. He was still under a year, but they didn't get him when he was brand new. So we're like, all right, well, this time let's get a brand new puppy. And so we found this guy, and we think, okay, Beagle mix, he's going to be a lot smaller. He's not. He's almost the size of the lab now. Mm. And I think he might have some golden retriever or something in him. Like he's that kind of a dog. Amazing dog, but wow, are puppies a lot of work.
Puppies are a lot of work.
Yeah.
Does he howl?
He does howl. Yeah.
I had a beagle mix when I lived in New Jersey, and my apartment was on the way to the hospital. So every time the ambulance went by, the beagle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we say the new one is the mouth and the older one's the muscle.
Oh.
So yeah, they're really great together. It's been great. I think to me it kind of does make sense starting a business and getting a puppy, only because it must force that balance, right? You know, having a puppy is like having a child. Like you have to be available and take care of them. So you are forced to turn work off and focus on something else.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. So that I think is a good way of finding balance. How about in other aspects of your life? I mean, I know work can be overwhelming. Are there things that you do to create healthy habits or to stay healthy?
So I'm always trying to think about what I put in my mouth in terms of how I'm eating.
Yeah.
I don't always succeed. I don't have a good day every day. I love chocolate. Sometimes that's my downfall.
Yeah.
But I think about healthy eating and the importance about healthy eating. I have seen lots of clients who've aged beautifully and some who've had a harder time with it. So I see things like diet and alcohol use being really important.
Yeah.
In terms of how well people age. So I think about that a lot, and have actually almost stopped drinking because I've seen people who have had some tough aging experiences because they just had a couple drinks a day.
Yeah.
It's not good for our brains.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I've never been a big drinker, but I've almost eliminated because of being inspired by how I've seen people be healthy agers.
That makes sense.
I love to ride bikes. In fact, Kevin and I met when we met through the Rotary Club, and the first couple times we got together, we were riding bicycles.
That's great.
And I've done some bicycle trips before. We also love to travel. So we try to plan some trips on a regular basis so that we're seeing our country and seeing the world, and that's really important to us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that just feeds the soul.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Great. And then, as far as, that balance and those healthy habits, are there things that have changed for you at all and kind of that you've had to adapt because now you're a business owner and you're doing, a lot more of not just working in the business, but also working on the business? Is there more of a challenge there to find that balance for you?
There is, for sure. So one of the things I love to do is to get up in the morning and make a cup of coffee and sit and read a novel or pleasure reading for an hour. That was always my best reading time of the day. And I've kind of given that up to work right now. So I'm really up and working usually by 6:30.
Yeah.
And then sometimes at the end of the day, I'm in bed with the laptop wrapping up things.
Yeah.
So that has been a struggle for sure. And I'm hoping that I can do better, once the business is a little bit more mature, do better with finding that balance. And pleasure reading is really important to me. So I'd like to get that back.
Yeah, that's hard. I mean, that definitely eats into those times when you could be reading, right?
It does. And the other thing I would say is, people ask, do I have a home office? Kevin and I both have a home office, which is nice. We have a little bit of office space as well in Wallingford. It's more almost to store our marketing materials and other things. But I spend the majority of my office time in my car. Right?
Yeah.
So because we're touring with clients and our territory is pretty large, so I am on the road a lot, meeting with referral partners. And that sometimes takes a toll on my body, all that time sitting in the car.
I relate to that.
Yeah. So I'm trying to be more mindful of body mechanics and thinking about how I can get more exercise and stretching time into my life.
Have you been able to add in like audiobooks to your car time to try and feed some of that?
That does help. And so as a librarian, I originally thought, audiobooks, that is not reading.
Right, yeah.
I kind of poo-pooed the idea. Then for a little while, I had a commute from northern New Jersey to the Bronx every day. It was like a 10-mile commute that took an hour. And that's when I started listening to audiobooks, and I love them. It's like somebody telling a story.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. So a big proponent of audiobooks.
Yeah, I agree. I fought it as well initially because I love to read, and I'm a much more visual learner as well. Even when I was an actor, like I always felt like I had almost a photographic memory, because the way that the words would be in my head would be based on their paragraphs and their pages. And so I always thought that was the way that I absorbed everything. And then when I got into this business, I'm on the road a lot. I'm in my car a lot. And so I started to listen to audiobooks, and I was the same way. I was like, this is amazing. Like, why didn't I do this sooner? And now it's kind of feeding a different way for me to absorb knowledge and to work on, being able to understand what I'm hearing. I'm also half deaf, so that's always been kind of a challenge. So it's fun now listening to audiobooks, and also I listen to so many podcasts. So now I don't listen to a lot of music in the car. Usually music is on at home, and I'm listening to information, audiobooks or podcasts.
Sometimes with audiobooks, I find that I have a hard time concentrating, and all of a sudden I've missed a chapter.
Yeah, that does happen. Yeah, for sure. And then I'll go back usually and re-listen to it. Yeah, I mean, there's times when you're spacing out or you have something in your head for business.
Right.
But it does help that car time go by.
It sure does.
Yeah, and it makes it more productive, in my opinion, because I've lost out on those mornings being able to wake up and read, and on those nights because I'm either continuing to work or I'm exhausted. So if I try to read at night, it's like 1 or 2 pages,
me too.
and I'm asleep.
Me too.
Yeah. Although I am trying, as part of my healthy practices, I'm starting to get back into running, but I also want to start putting the electronics away and read before I go to bed. Whether it's 1 or 2 pages is fine.
It's much better for us to read than to have that screen right before we go to sleep.
For sure. Yeah.
Kevin is a runner, so you two should chat about that sometime.
Yeah, I don't define myself as a runner. I've at times in my life, I've done a lot of running. I've done some half marathons and Ragnar relay races because I used to recruit other people to do it. So I'm like, well, if I'm asking other people to do it, then I should be out there doing it. But now, as I've gotten older, now I'm really starting to enjoy it. And I'm the slowest runner in the world, so I don't do long distances. I'm working right now toward a quarter marathon. So I ran it last year and it was a lot of fun. So hoping to feel good about doing it again this year.
Yeah, that's a great goal.
Yeah. I mean, it helps that balance, right? Like if it's something you have to do, then you find a way to fit it in.
Good going.
Yeah, for sure. Great. So this has been a lot of fun getting to know you and a little bit more about your business. As far as Oasis, how can people find you, or when do you recommend people reach out and get in touch with you?
So I say it's never too early to talk. Yeah. People could call us anytime. People can also call us in a crisis. If we don't answer the phone, we return the call very quickly. So phone is the best way. You can contact us through our website, by email. We're pretty connected, and our goal is to be there and to be there quickly.
Sure, yeah.
So, but it's never too early to have a conversation and learn about what we do and learn about what the options are.
Yeah, I feel like it plays into the financial well-being as well. That's an area where we haven't had a lot of guests on yet, but we're hoping to soon. Talking to people about what the resources are so that they can protect their finances, especially in retirement. And this is such a big component of that. So getting the understanding of it in advance of that planning, I think, would be a big help for people.
Yeah. And we'd love to connect with planners because I think that they can be really valuable to the people that we're working with. Yeah,
that's great. And how I want to ask you a little bit too about the other day in our health and wellness committee meeting, you had recommended a book or two. Are there, I can't imagine as a librarian that you have a favorite book, but are there books that you do recommend people read, or is it really specific to the person?
So it is specific to the person, and a great librarian will ask a couple of questions when a reader approaches and says, I want to know what to read next.
Yeah.
In terms of my own reading right now and becoming even better at what we do, I'm reading a book by David Brooks called How to Really Know a Person. I would recommend that for anybody who thinks that building relationships is key to their life. There's another book about the art of listening. The title is You're Not Listening. I can't remember the subtitle. Why it matters is the emphasis of the subtitle.
Yeah.
And it's, you talked earlier about so often when we're listening, we're actually planning our response and not really listening.
Yeah.
That book does a great job of explaining how we can listen.
That's great. Yeah. How about for enjoyment? Are there certain types of books or certain things that you enjoy to read?
So I read historical fiction when I'm really looking to escape. I'm reading a book right now called The Fraud by Zadie Smith, which is pretty great. Mm-hmm. I think it can be a fun way to learn about history while also having the pleasure of reading a novel to think about historical fiction.
Yeah, I really enjoy that type of thing as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Anything that's coming up that you want to promote? I know you guys do events, and you did do. Do you do like seminars or educational events at all?
So through Oasis, we offer continuing education credits focused at social workers and people who work in the field. So that's free, and it's really beneficial to them because they need to earn continuing education credits for their license or certificates. This time around, and actually happens in March, on March 19th, we're trying something different, and we're doing a caregiver event, virtual caregiver event. And it's really geared at families who might have a loved one at home who they're kind of propping up. They're maybe not going to be able to stay home too much longer. And it's a good time to start looking at senior living resources. And we see this a lot when there's, say there are a couple that's living at home and one member of the couple is a caregiver. If that person gets sick or has an injury and is not able to fulfill that role as a caregiver, they're really in trouble.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's a time for adult children to think about, let's identify what some options are in case we do need to make a change pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's so important because then once that happens, you're in crisis mode.
Right, right.
It gets harder.
So we have a virtual event coming up for caregivers.
That's great.
On March 19th.
Something anybody can attend?
And anybody can attend.
And free of charge?
Free of charge. Okay. Register online. Their space is limited, but they usually can accommodate up to at least a few days before. Okay,
that's great. Well, again, this has been a lot of fun getting to know you and more about Oasis. I think these are the types of resources that we want our listeners to be exposed to so that they understand that there is help out there. There's places where people can go for the answers to make sure, that they have everything they need for their loved ones and for themselves, and in order to maintain that quality of life. This is, I think, an area that people kind of fight against, don't think about, but like you said, it could be just the natural next step.
Absolutely. I, for one, can't wait to move into community living because I think it's great.
Right, yeah.
You've got all those activities, transportation, good food, and when you've had enough of other people, you go to your apartment and close the door, and you've got your solitary time. So I think it's amazing. Yeah,
absolutely. And I love how you put it, find your best next place to live. Mm-hmm. And I think it makes it, that defines it as your next step and something that can be a positive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Your next step in a good life.
That's great. Well, Jane, thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate your time, and we'll make sure that we have the information up on our social media when this launches, so that people can see that event and they'll know how to reach out to you.
Great. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank all of you for listening again to episode 6 of Sounds of Health. We are brought to you by Nutmeg Insurance Advisors, and we are recorded at the offices of Nutmeg Advisory Group in North Haven, Connecticut. The podcast is produced by Jason Carubia and Dave MacNiven, with music by Rob Hames. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Please like, subscribe, and leave a review. Each week, we spotlight the stories, people, and resources that inspire and motivate others to improve their health, and we are just getting started. Help us to share these sounds, and please don't keep us a secret.